Why do you get tired when you're studying? There's actually a brain hack for that. My name is Dave Farrow. I went from ADHD and dyslexic as a kid to the two-time Guinness record holder for greatest memory today. All right, so when you're studying, in fact, doing any sort of cognitive activity, you're throwing your brain chemistry out of whack. You start off with, let's call it a balanced brain chemistry. You've got dopamine, norepinephrine, you've got serotonin. All of these things, all of these factors are kind of balanced to make you in a pretty good mood and make you pretty clear-headed. As you start to think very strongly, as you start to memorize something or study something, you're actually going to be burning up some of this brain chemistry and building up other brain chemistry that makes you very tired. Things like serotonin, which is going to help make you sleepy. And you'll find that you can't push yourself too far because your brain chemistry just won't allow it. One of the funny things I always say is that your brain is the most powerful, amazing computer you could possibly imagine, and it has a terrible battery. In fact, usually after only about 5 to 8 minutes, you're going to start feeling exhausted, or at least, even if you don't consciously realize it, your brain is losing some of its power, some of its oomph, some of its ability to focus. And that's right, oomph is a scientific term in my opinion. So what do we do about this? Well, the interesting thing is things like serotonin bind to oxygen, so standing up, going for a little walk around the room or around the block will absolutely change your state. If you don't want to just go lie down, force yourself to do things like jumping jacks or something that'll get you breathing heavily, and that will change your state and make you feel more awake. Getting more sleep tends not to make a big difference, and also caffeine is not a great solution for this as well, because you'll feel more alert, but in test after test, you will not perform better. The real solution actually is to break your task up into tiny little chunks. There's actually a technique that I call focus burst and a different brain hack. And by breaking up your tasks into tiny little chunks and putting breaks in between, it gives your brain time to rest and times to rebalance in between these moments of great focus. When you're trying to do any large task, you very quickly realize that the brain is not really designed for this. It's not really geared to study for 8 hours at a time or to write an entire book. And you start to realize that the brain is actually geared for some very specific tasks and very specific situations that happen in nature. I'm talking about fight or flight. My theory is that focus and flow state are actually an extension of the flight or fight response, and it is a positive version of fight or flight. So it's not the amygdala hijacking and an intense thing that overcomes your brain where you're going to freeze and be paralyzed or very fearful. It's a mild version of fight or flight that is just below that terror level that actually leads to incredible focus and flow state. The reason for this is that most people don't actually achieve flow state or tremendous focus until a deadline starts to approach. And in fact, that's one of the principles that I teach, is the deadline principle. As you get closer to a deadline, your brain starts to focus more. But that's not just enough. That's just fear triggering your brain. The other part of it is to break tasks into short chunks, because in the real world, fight or flight situation does not last very long. Let me think about this here. If you actually saw a tiger and a human being, and the tiger was kind of going towards the human being and they were going to fight, no matter what happens, that situation is going to be resolved very quickly. We're talking like 5 minutes, right? Either the tiger is going to have a meal or the human being is going to get away, something like that. So your brain is geared towards very intense situations like that with periods of rest in between. So give it what it wants. Instead of trying to force it to study for hours at a time, study really intensely. And I'm talking super intense for 5 to 8 minutes. Give yourself a short 5-minute break to clear your head. Read something you enjoy, something like that. Heck, I play video games in between. And then go back to the task. Instead of trying to push yourself to focus for long periods of time, especially if you're ADHD, like me, what you want to do is go very intensely and get the ability to turn your brain on and off constantly like a light switch. And you'll be surprised how easy this is. This is the secret behind how I memorized 3,068 cards for my latest Guinness record, which I still hold the Guinness record to this day. Don't break my record. Just try to use this brain hack for something good. And if you want to find out more or more details, obviously there's more to it. Check out my book, Brain Hacker, which is available today. Check out our courses, which are in the description. Or if you want to find out more brain hacks, you could just subscribe.